Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a wonderful day or evening. In today's story, found out his wife cheated on him after his Apple Watch showed she was at AP's house after claiming she was at her mother's, then showed up and confronted her and things got crazy. Now, her life is a complete wreck. Let's get into today's story to find out what happened. My wife and I got married in 2018. I worked as a paralegal and started my own side business. And when she got pregnant, I bought a house in her family's city and eventually lost my job. So from 2018 to 2020 I was essentially in grind mode, working a low-paying job and hitting major hours of overtime each week just to make sure the house, wife and child were secured 80,105 hours per week. During this time, she was not working. She said she was. But in 2019, I learned she was not and was staying at her parents' house in order to make it seem that she was working. In 2019 to 2020 my business began to grow and started to match my day job's income. So I stopped working overtime. She got a job at a factory and she was happy to finally make her own money. We didn't have sex a lot because of the kids and stress. At the end of 2021 I got my first major business contract, $250,000, and I was extremely happy because months before this, we were forced to give our newborn baby up for adoption because we simply could not afford it. She has 3 kids from her last marriage, plus 1 with me. Plus I have one of my own that I get half the year with 5 kids in a 2-bedroom house and both of our cars, both 12 years old and reading 200k odometer. It just wasn't plausible for me to be able to carry all the expenses for the year or two while she recovered and prepared to return to work. In 2022, I doubled my business income, $500,000, and took her on trips/vacations every few months. I stayed home with the kids and was a great father. I told her she didn't have to work anymore, but she insisted on working because she liked her job and didn't want to have to ask me for money. So I essentially was a stay-at-home father, cooking, cleaning and watching the children, but I still paid for all the bills, mortgages and cars. I even employed her brother that came from prison and paid her sister's college tuition. We still never had sex and she began working longer hours in September. Some girl messaged me saying she worked with my wife at the factory and said she was cheating on me and texting guys. I confronted my wife. She denied it and even told me I could drive her to and from work to prove it. So for 4 weeks, I drove her to and from work. While I drove her, she went to work later. She usually was gone from 4 a.m. 7 p.m. But now it was 6 a.m. 5 p.m. The first week of October, I stopped and she began leaving at 3 a.m. and coming back at 8 p.m. on October 23rd. She said she was going to work on Friday. They always have Friday off and that she would sleep at her parents' house because our son was sick, implying she picked him up from his cousin's slumber party and that her other sister's car wouldn't start. And so she was letting her use her SUV tonight and that her phone was going to die because she had no charger. Obviously, that was about 40 red flags. So I immediately tracked her Apple Watch. Her phone was off and checked her parents' and sister's houses. She wasn't there and they hadn't heard from her. The children were still with their cousins at the slumber party too. I went to the location of the Apple Watch and knocked on the door. No answer. I walked to the backyard. It was a 1-bedroom trap house with a fence knocked over and went to the window and saw her phone and watched laying here next to her and what looked to be another person next to her in bed. I knocked on the window and began recording with my phone. Her affair partner hopped out of bed fully naked and yelled at me. After whispering something in her ear, he said he would fight. So I went up front to wait for him and put my pistol away in my car. He never came. So I left and the following day I told her parents and family everything and showed the video to them. They disowned her. She stayed at that guy's house from Thursday night until Saturday night. I still had access to her Apple account and saw her messages to the guy saying that she would stand by him to come back and eat her food, that she would clean his house for him, that she would perform sexual acts, etc. She refused to do any of this for me, said she was not a slave, etc. Sunday. He kicked her out of his house after getting tired of having sex with her. So she crawled back to my house. I changed all the locks and all her belongings were banged up and outside. She stayed outside for 5 hours before she got my son and made him wait with her out in the cold. So I let them in. I didn't speak with her until Tuesday. She said she only slept with him one time, that they worked together and had been talking for a week. She did it because I didn't show her love. They had been friends on Facebook since July, and her brother confirmed that he had been to his house to drop off food several times with my wife but didn't know who lived there. She said there were 2 other guys she talked to at her work, but that she only sent them nudes but never got physical despite trying to hook up 5 times this year. They never were able to. She said they all didn't have a car. So she gave them money and rides to and from work. She promised that was all her cheating and that she never cheated before. This year. The next day, I messaged 10 men who she worked with and had his friends on Facebook and offered them $500 cash to admit and provide concrete proof of her affair with them. One responded and showed photos of her meeting him at a hotel on August 10, 2020 when she was sick. Another said he had no proof but admitted to having sex with her in 2019 a few times and was able to verify her tattoos. Other men did not respond. She denied that anything had happened before this month, that this was the first time she got physical and that the other times were just sexting, which she didn't see as cheating, and she only did it because I didn't show her love or attention. She begged to make it work to give her another chance and said she would quit her factory job and be a stay-at-home mom. Made me laugh that she thought I would reward her with that. I told her to stay working and save up to move out by my birthday in December, that I would file for a divorce and that she could have the house. She signed a prenup so she had no claim to the business. She said she would kill herself before losing me and that she still loved me. I told her I didn't feel anything for her and that beyond my son, I didn't care about her or her other kids. I don't want a used wife, even though I understand what made her cheat if she cheated, because I didn't show her attention while I was working long hours building a secure foundation for our family. I already know I won't be able to show her any kind of love without remembering all the men she had sex with in the past, present and future. I'm terribly sorry for your loss. It's seeming like no good deed goes unpunished. You pretty much did everything right and got what you did not deserve in return. I don't see any alternative other than to divorce. Even though she has lied about how many times she cheated. Forgive her yet. I would not trust her going forward. Divorce is the only option I see here, by the way. Her excuse that because of you overworking to see that she and her children were financially stable was absolutely no excuse for her cheating. She claims you neglected to show her love and affection. Did she ever come to you and initiate any love and affection? Set her out with the trash she belongs with. Now, let's get into today's second story. So my wife and this guy have been coworkers and friends for over a year now. They mostly work together but sometimes talk via text and Snapchat. He is 26, she is 33. I'm 37. He lives in his parents' basement and has a part-time job at the company and no real financial future. He is also not very attractive and doesn't seem like my wife's type. Anyway, her boss at work had a birthday on Saturday and I dropped her off at the bar where a bunch of other employees were going to celebrate. I fell asleep on the couch at around 1 a.m. and woke up at 6 a.m. the following day. I'm not sure why. But I had a bad feeling about her not coming home before I was awake. So I looked through her phone and found Snapchats which made my heart sink. She messaged him at 2:30 a.m. and said he's asleep. After I found the texts, I took some photos and woke her up and confronted her. She came clean admitting to it all after I showed her the photos and said that they didn't have sex because he was too drunk to get hard. But they fooled around and planned/trying to. She claimed this is the first time they ever got physical, but I am not sure. I believe it since from the texts, they had clearly discussed it as they both knew what they were talking about. I am now trying to decide if I want to divorce or reconcile. I had an initial consultation with a lawyer today. We own a house together that neither of us can afford on our own and have 2 kids. Ages 6 and 4. I'm looking for advice or support from this community. Do you think I can keep this relationship alive? She has agreed to go zero contact. Give me full access to her phone and enter counseling. I also told her that she needed to inform her parents or I would, and she called them both immediately after. I'm not sure why I did this. I guess I wanted her to own it, and I wanted her parents, who I both respect very much, to know why I would be divorcing her if I choose that path. Update. So I'm relatively new to Reddit and I have never made a post before this one. So I'm not sure if this is the proper way to update, but here goes. I read most of the comments here and thank you for your advice. I met with a lawyer yesterday and took home the client intake form, which I filled out in front of her shortly after I had my first consultation with a lawyer in 2 weeks, as that was their earliest appointment. She has been very remorseful and has done everything I have asked of her so far. She also said she wanted to prove to me that this was a one-time mistake but didn't know how. Then I saw that some people suggested a lie detector test. So I brought that up to her. She agreed to take it and asked to do it sooner than later. So I called today on my lunch break and scheduled one for Friday. The questions will basically cover what happened the night in question, whether they have ever done anything previously to that, and whether or not there have been any other partners during our marriage. If she fails any questions on the test, I will not attempt reconciliation. And even if she passes them all, I still may not. This is all too fresh and my emotions are too high to make any decisions at this point in time. The only decisions I've made are things she must do for me to even consider reconciliation in terms of the AP. They work for the same company but do not work at the same store and have no day-to-day interactions at work. I am not making excuses for her, and I am not trying to diminish the disrespect she has given me or my family. Does anyone have any experience with lie detectors? I'm assuming I can't be the only person here who has had a spouse. Take 1. Also, I do not wish to talk to her hour and make her lose her job if she has no wages. If we divorce, I do not want to have to pay support. Our incomes are slightly similar, with mine being higher, and if some way in hell we do try to work it out, I will also need her financial help to maintain the household. You have done all the right things so far. You have consulted with a lawyer so you can begin to understand your options and what divorce and custody would entail. Make sure to ask the lawyer how to separate and protect financial assets, including joint accounts and credit cards. You are also smart to get her to tell the truth to her parents so she cannot spin this differently if you end up divorcing. This is not their first rodeo, it seems like it's been going on for a while. She got comfortable and careless. And you found out. Let the minimizing and blame games and gaslighting begin. Why else would he presume a married woman would have condoms to have sex with him? Be honest, first and foremost, with yourself, knowing she has lied, treated you like a dummy, and disrespected you in the most primal of ways. You think you can live with her. Also, she will lose what little respect she has for you, and she will do it again. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on today's stories. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation, please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone.